sample of your saliva, what piece of skin, of your organ, and you put on that device, which is called a wet sample, that device does some crunching, and out comes 6.4 billion bytes, each one for a letter of your genome. So far, so good? In the year 2000, it cost $100 million to sequence one genome. So far, so good? They made up that machine. The machine was not cheap. Now, don't get me wrong. The machine was not cheap, and it cost $100 million to sequence one genome. But compared to 2.7, man, I'm telling you, you do the math. It was a profitable business. And if it had followed Moore's law, the slow motion 1,000 every 15 years line, which is the line that you see there, today it would cost about what? $1 million to sequence one genome. Which insurance company was going to pay for that? But thank God, it moved much faster than Moore's law. Way faster. And today, in 2016, it only costs about $1,000, and it takes 26 hours. And you know what it's going to look like in 15 years from now? If it follows the 10 times every 5 years rate, it's going to cost $1, and it's going to take a minute and a half. Okay? What is that going to enable? That is going to enable what is called precision medicine or targeted medicine. And what does that do? You know, a Tylenol is called a blockbuster. You know what is a blockbuster? You sell it to everybody. It doesn't matter if it is a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if it is young or old or middle age. You actually have a generic drug that fits everybody. In targeted medicine, they are going to sequence your genome first, find out which letters should be there that are not. It finds out what kind of protein those letters would cause your organism to generate, and then it will give you a pill that will supplement that. There is a hospital, a research institute in New Jersey, close to my home, like 4 hours from my home, where they found out that people with a specific type of cancer, a specific type of error in their genome, could not produce zinc at the moment of molecule binding. They gave a pill, and those people to this date, they created a pill, no longer do chemo, no longer do radiotherapy, and treat their cancer with a pill every morning. This is targeted medicine. But it doesn't stop there. You know why? Because one of the biggest problems that we have today with the human society, the issue of public health, is the outbreak of infectious diseases, like diseases caused by bacteria, by virus, and so on and so forth. It still takes millions of lives every day, and it costs billions of dollars. And you know why? Infectious diseases are spreading when you think that, we are almost done with all the bacteria and all the virus. The issue that happens is that you have global warming. Global warming is changing the pattern of the mosquitoes' paths. Mosquitoes are reaching broader geography, is actually reaching regions that never were able before, and together with natural disasters and political crises, you have mass migration of people, creating higher areas of density of people and infectious diseases that are mutating and evolving. How do we treat infectious diseases today? We take a sample of a microbiome. A microbiome is a sample of contaminated water, or is a sample of your saliva that has all the microorganisms in your mouth. And we look for particular bacteria. You know what that means? We take the sample, we do a culture process, that we kill all other bacteria except the one that we are suspecting, and then we sequence that one. And we say, hey, that bacteria has a new combination of A, B, and C. that is actually causing the disease. The problem is when you try to isolate one bacteria, you kill all the others. Not all bacteria can actually be isolated. Bacteria can mutate and evolve, so you are treating, by the time that you are analyzing it, the bacteria is different from the one that you started with, and some bacteria actually die in the process. So with sequencing in the order of cents, I can actually do microbiome analysis. I can look at all the microorganisms, and I can look for combinations of infectious diseases that are not only in one bacteria, but that are actually caused by the combination, a unique combination of bacteria all around. This is what we call the digital era. And the digital era is very much different from everything we saw before. And that's the point that we are trying to make, is to actually try to imagine what was not imagined before. And why are we entering the digital era? We are entering the digital era because we don't have just big data, we don't have just social networks, we don't have just 1,000 factors of technology improvement over a period of 15 years. We don't have just the fact that technology is actually outpacing Moore's law. We have it all together at the same time. And I tell my daughters, by the way, I have 2 daughters and I believe in batch processing, so they're twins. We are very technology focused in our household, but in any case, I tell my daughters every day, we are so blessed to be alive right here, right now. Can you imagine what looked like growing up in the agriculture age? 9-month cycle of watching everything grow so that you could cut and plant again? We are in the digital era, and there is no better time to be in. The digital era is going to bring change, and change is going to create opportunities, and it's going to transform whole industries, and it will transform all industries. So we actually need to embrace the phenomena of digital transformation, and the phenomena, of digital transformation actually includes 3 components. And we are going to talk about each one of the components right here, right now. The first component is the fact that it's going to transform the way we work. Our workforce is transforming, and we have to transform together with them. The second one is security, that we'll need to transform, and the third one is IT. Ready? How are we doing so far? So far, so good. Very good. So let's talk about workforce transformation. So it may not look like, but I am actually in the IT business for the last 30 years. And I started punching cards. Have you heard of punching cards? Yes, you don't know what it was like. It was like actually typing in your card, in a typewriter, making punches on your card, sequencing the cards, sending through a batch, waiting 3 hours to find out that you had a comma missing. Because at the time we were programming COBOL and Pascal, and no, those are not the name of people, those are the name of programming languages 30 years ago. Okay? But even so, we felt blessed. Why? Because we would go to work and we would have access to programs, and we could automate things that we could not do at home. We didn't have at home PCs, we didn't have laptops, we didn't have any access to the web interface, and forget about mobile devices, right? So what we dreamed at that point was that once we got home, we could have some of the benefits we had at work. And that is what we called at the time the workerization of life experience. I wanted in my life some of the experience that I had at work. Afterwards, we had access to computers at home, but we didn't have access to the internet. And then we actually came up with modems. Do you remember the modems? the first cry of your child, and the noise of the modem connecting through the landline. They were equally pleasing because you were now connected from home to the internet through an analog line. Today, the reverse is happening. What is happening? The experience that we have with the devices at home are much more gratifying than the experience that we have at work. And now we dream for the consumerization of the work experience. I want to have at work the agility, the mobility, the ability to actually go from one place to another and stay connected, the ability to be able to upload and download files and data from the cloud, the ability to share information with my friends, to call via any kind of collaboration tool, to share pictures, to share presentations. But yet, we can't. It is proven that companies that actually embrace mobility show a 44% higher growth than the others. That 35% of the people are better working at home, are better working remotely, would like the agility, but we cannot deliver. Why? Because IT has become rigid, procedure-oriented, process-oriented, and it is not moving at the same speed as the consumer market. And as a result, we need to transform and adapt to the workforce. You know, the workforces, the generations in the US are divided in eras. So people that were actually born after the World War, the Second World War, 1945 to the 1960s, are called baby boomers. These are people that actually experienced exponential growth. People that actually were born between the 1960s to the 1980s are called Generation X. That's my generation and some of you in this room. We were actually living in an era of political freedom. We actually saw the Vietnam War, we actually experienced the fall of the Berlin Wall, and so on and so forth, and that's what shaped us, people say. And then you have Generation Y, which was born in the late 1980s and up to the year 2000, and then you have Generation Z, which will soon join the workforce. The Generation Y, the people that were born between the 1980s and the year 2000, are called also the millennium. So when you hear in the news that you have the millennials joining the workforce, that's the generation we are talking about. And if you look at the statistics, Generation X, like us, we really got a hard life. You know why? Baby boomers didn't retire early. So they were the majority of the workforce when we were entering the workforce, and the millennials started working much sooner. So we were never the majority. Some statistics say that for 2 years, we were the majority of the workforce. We were either being pressured by the baby boomers or being kicked out by the Generation X, not the Generation Y. That's our life. But the problem with us is that we actually raised Generation Y, the millennials. We were born and we had children, and what did we tell them? We told them they could change the world. We told them that they were capable of doing anything on earth, that they actually should drive change. And now they show up at your door for work. And what do you tell them? Oh, I can't give you a mobile device, because we have rules here and procedures. And you know what they tell you? Thank you, but no thank you. 50% of the millennium show up at your door looking for a job, and if you don't have the technology perks that they want, they get out. They prefer mobility, agility, user experience, then they prefer a tennis table or free soda or free chocolate. That goes right, okay? And when you thought you're catching up. So the workforce is actually transforming. We need to modernize the work experience. We need to empower them with analytics. By the way, they consider a fact of life that you're going to have augmented reality and virtual reality in the workplace. They consider that you're going to have IoT-enabled everything in your office, and that's the expectations that you have to meet. So now, with all of that demand, comes security.